Welcome to Reach the World ASAP. My name is Pastor Scott Griswold and I work with ASAP Ministries. At 58 minutes after midnight on December 26, 2004, there was a 9.1 magnitude earthquake. Waves as high as 100 feet pounded the coast of Indonesia and Sri Lanka, India and Thailand, and actually a total of 14 countries. 230,000 people died. Are you ready for something big to hit? Not another enormous earthquake with frightening tsunamis, but the last days, the coming of Jesus. On one specific beach there in Phuket, southern Thailand, foreigners and Thais were enjoying the clear water, beautiful fish that sand between their toes. And suddenly a 10-year-old girl named Tilly Smith from England ran to her mother. "Mommy," she screamed, "we've got to get off the beach. A tsunami is coming." Her family fled up towards higher ground and started yelling for everybody to join them. "There's a tidal wave coming," they shouted. "Get up." Minutes later, the waves whipped in and crashed towards them, but not a single person from that beach was killed. Thousands in other places drowned, but not there. Why did these people escape? 2 weeks earlier, Tilly had listened to her teacher describe the signs of a tsunami. Then when she saw the water recede, she knew that there had been an earthquake. So she ran and warned, and more than 100 people were saved. Now, there's a lot of sermons out there to scare people about the end of time. And there have been a lot of sermons to tell people not to be afraid. Somewhere in the middle, I believe Jesus has something very special to say to us about being ready through his strength. I think the best place to start is in Matthew 24 to 25, where we have 2 entire chapters of red ink, Jesus' precious words giving us just the counsel that we need. Now, there's no way in this short time that I can give any kind of justice to this awesome passage, but I'm hoping it will stir you to study in light of the focus, Reach the World ASAP, where we want to get this world ready for Christ's coming. So, dig in and study for yourself. You may find more, but I found 7 things that Jesus emphasized. Matthew 24, verse 4, "And Jesus answered and said to them, 'Take heed that no one deceives you.'" He says it again in verse 11 and 24 with some specific thoughts about what might lull you into a deadly sleep of deception. So number 1 is, don't be deceived. Know the truth. Number 2, chapter 24, verse 13. "But he who endures to the end shall be saved." There are going to be some really tough times of persecution. Hang on, Jesus says. I'm hanging on to you. Don't give up. Quitters won't make it. So number 2, endure. Number 3 is in chapter 24, verses 32 to 44. It's watch and be ready. Keep your eyes on the signs of the times. Remember Noah and all the people who were swept away because they just kept eating, drinking, marrying, and giving away in marriage, just like no big thing was coming. Verse 42 and 44 specifically say, "Watch therefore, for you do not know what hour your Lord is coming. Therefore you also be ready, for the Son of Man is coming in an hour you do not expect." Number 3 is watch and be ready. Then Jesus jumps into the parables. Chapter 24, verses 45 to 51, contrasts a faithful and wise servant who feeds everyone in the house with an evil servant who beats up on his fellow servants. What is Jesus trying to say here? This one jumps us from those first 3, personal knowledge of the truth, an enduring character, and a dedicated, watchful eye, to relationships. Do we love the people in our churches? Are we so into the truth and being right that we beat up on those who disagree with us by our words? Or are we feeding them with the truth, spoken in love, tenderness, and mercy? So number 4, feed, don't beat. Chapter 25 leads us into very familiar territory. First comes the parable of the 10 virgins in verses 1 through 13. There's so much depth to this one. You really got to pick up that book, Christ's Object Lessons, and study the pages there. But the big point is given by the bridegroom when he says, "I don't know you." Do you have a Bible? Maybe lots of Bibles, like a row of dusty lamps on your shelf? Is your life shining with the truth written on your heart by the power of the Holy Spirit like a bright lamp? Do you walk closely with Jesus in Bible study, prayer, praise, and witnessing? He wants you to be with him in that marriage supper. So number 5, to be ready, know Jesus. Then there's the parable of the talents in verses 14 to 30. Once again, so much incredible depth. You've got to just ponder and think about all the talents and gifts that your master has entrusted to you. Because Jesus makes it clear that at his coming, he will say, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You were faithful over a few things. I will make you ruler over many things. Enter into the joy of your Lord. Number 6 is multiply your talents. And there's one more. In the most sweeping visual picture, Jesus shows his coming, sitting on the throne, angels all around him, the nations spread out before him like two groups of sheep and goats. One group has unconsciously loved Jesus by caring for the hungry, the thirsty, the naked, the sick, those behind bars. The others are clueless. They've ignored Jesus repeatedly by their self-absorbed lives. So number 7 is clearly love the least of these. Amazing, isn't it? Don't be deceived, endure, watch and be ready, feed, don't beat, know Jesus, multiply your talents, love the least. What I find fascinating is that we're all asleep. Now, likely you don't feel sleepy on one or two of those points. You may be really passionate about the signs of the times, being watchful and ready. But maybe you are asleep about caring for the least of these, the lepers, the AIDS victims, the child prostitutes. On the other hand, maybe you're really into caring relationships, so much so that you're frustrated by what happens in the church and about to give it all up. Well, there's the part that you must endure. Do you see how Jesus has put together just an amazing balance of all the qualities we need? For instance, again, we can be so into using our talents for God in the least of these, but have no time to spend knowing Jesus. We need all 7 in a growing measure. But maybe this is overwhelming to you. Maybe it's actually frightening to think of all we need to be ready. I'm going to point out to you just one more parable. It comes before all the rest because it's what we need the most. It's in Matthew chapter 22, verses 1 through 14. The parable of the wedding feast. The good, the bad, the ugly all get invited. Heaven's a free gift. But with that gift comes a wedding garment. It's the righteousness of Jesus. I don't have it, and you don't have it. It's all those good things we're supposed to be in Matthew 24 and 25. Jesus gives it to us as a free gift. We can't produce it, but the King provides it so we can enjoy his feast. So back to the tsunami for just a moment more. A man was sleeping in his home while the waves were coming. His family rushed to wake him up. Get up, they screamed. Don't bother me. I want to sleep. No, you've got to get up. They shook him. They pulled on him. He just shoved them away. In desperation to save their own lives, they fled out of the house. He rolled over and went back to sleep, never to wake up again because he drowned in those awful waves. Paul told us in Romans 13:11, it's high time to wake up. Now is our salvation. It's nearer than when we first believed. Examine yourself in the light of Matthew 24 to 25. See what God requires of his last day people. It's not legalistic to recognize that Jesus is warning us because we must have his righteousness. We must be entirely clothed with him to be ready. We need his presence in our hearts. Together, let's be ready. And together, let's reach the world ASAP.